Steadman. Annabelle, welcome to Waterstones.
Thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure to have you here today to celebrate Book 5 in your epic Skandar series, Skandar and the Spirit War. Would you mind introducing yourself to our audience here and tell us a little bit about the Skandar series?
Sure, so the Skandar series is set in a world where unicorns are real and deadly. So forget about the pink, fluffy, cute unicorns or any kind of rainbow-coloured poo. These unicorns are bloodthirsty, they're magical, and they are powerful as well. And as you would expect, the fact that these unicorns exist causes quite a lot of excitement on the mainland, and lots of children at 13, they want to bond with a unicorn and become a warrior unicorn rider. So that's where we meet Skandar Smith, the main character in the books, who is 13 and is desperate to become one of these unicorn riders.
Now, without giving away any major spoilers, Book 4 left us with a pretty big betrayal and a pretty big cliffhanger. Would you mind telling us what you're most excited for your readers to discover in Book 5?
I think that in Book 5, it's basically, I left a lot of things open in Book 4, and I think a lot of people were very angry with me at the end of Book 4. I was a little bit worried that no one would ever come to my signings again, which has not happened, luckily. They just come and then they ask me lots of questions. So I'm excited to answer all of those questions. I am also excited to kind of introduce more twists and kind of more aspects of mythology that I've been building for a long time. It's the longest book yet, so I think it's a lovely book for readers who really love the series, because they're going to see all their characters that they love, and they're going to find out all the answers to the burning questions that they've had to sit with for the past 9 months.
Really just like an epic conclusion, I suppose. And I think the fact that it's your longest book yet is like the main treat for our readers. They'll be thrilled. I would have to say all the best books, all the best fantasies have maps at the front of them. And this is something that your Skandar series has. And throughout the series, that map has expanded, and as we've discovered more places, it's been added to. With Book 5, that map is now complete.
Yes.
What are you most excited for with this map? And what's it been like building the world of Skandar and sort of adding to it over time?
So I think when I started, it was the world that I built first. The entire first draft of Skandar and the Unicorn Thief was me having the best time in the world. And I finished it, and then I realised I might need a plot at some point. And that is genuinely true. That's not just me saying that. And I think that I needed to find a way through the kind of world that I had made, but it meant that a lot of the kind of early ideas that I had for it, they couldn't go in the first book. So then I held them back, and then sometimes we'd introduce something else, like the song school, for example, got moved from Book 2 to Book 3 to Book 4, and so I knew it was coming. And then that was really nice because it made it feel kind of really real to me all of the time, because a lot of the parts that get introduced I'd already thought of way back in the beginning, and lots of things are new as well. But it's been such a fun world building experience, and it's lovely to give readers new things every time. It's not always the same, and that's kind of reflected in the map. One of the reasons for the map in Book 5 being a composite map is that I actually noticed that fans were making them, because they were annoyed that they had to keep going through each book at a time to check the maps. And so they were creating these amazing maps with everything on, and I thought, we should do that for Book 5. Yeah.
Oh wow. Is there anywhere, it's so interesting to hear you've been sort of holding back the places and like waiting to reveal them on the map. Do you have a sort of favourite place on the island?
Oh my goodness. So I think probably, if I was on the island, I think would try to avoid the drama in general. And I think the Ambling archipelago is one of my favourite things that I made, where it's made up of tiny little islands, and they move around really slowly, and they're all different, and it's different colours of blue. And it's kind of where the quartet have actually a really chill time for a while, which is very unusual for them. So I really love that place, but the sunset platform as well in the Eyrie is a really lovely space where it kind of feels like a space above everywhere else, and kind of views of the island. And sometimes I kind of imagine myself standing up there when I'm kind of thinking about the plot and things. and it feels like a safe space.
So we know where we can find you
Yeah.
if we lose you on the island.
Good luck getting up there.
We can try.
Without a unicorn. If you've got a unicorn, you're fine.
Oh, okay. Now, moving on from the map, we have to talk about the magic, the elemental magic that runs through the island. Book 5 is our spirit book, and from book 1 we had fire, water, air, earth, and now we're finishing on spirit. What's it been like to unleash the spirit element and the magic in book 5?
I think it's been so much fun for me because I've kind of added to the spirit element, a bit like the map, each time. And so there's all these foundations for the spirit element, but there was still quite a lot being held back, particularly because of how the kind of plot goes with Skandar. So I think for book 5, I think readers are just really going to love actually being allowed to experience the kind of fullness of the spirit element and kind of some of those mysteries being kind of revealed, because I have enjoyed kind of holding them back, but now I just really want to be able to talk about it and share it with them. And some of the scenes I know that have made my editor cry in Spirit War have been to do with the spirit element, and I'm not going to say anything else apart from that, but yes, I think it's really special to have done that book last.
Yeah, I agree. Having read book 5, breathtaking.
Oh,
and I'm just so excited for everyone else to finally be able to sort of just fully embrace the spirit element and to see it for, I think, in a way, Skandar throughout the whole series has been trying to enlighten his friends, which he has done over time, and people on the island about the spirit element. And I think this book is just such a homage to that beautiful sort of like the magic that it is, the light and the dark, and yeah, it's just amazing. Speaking of the elements, do you know your element if you were on the island?
So I think I would be an earth wielder. I've taken my own test, which I wrote. I tried to get spirit. I'm going to be honest about that. But actually, I got earth every time, even though I sort of knew how to get spirit. I couldn't quite.
You couldn't trick.
No, and I think that's the most earth wielder thing ever, that I couldn't almost like lie to get the answer. I had to be honest about it, and I think I have a lot in common with Flo. I have a lot. There are a lot bits of me in lots of the characters, but I think in terms of how she kind of behaves a lot of the way through the books, I've drawn on things that have happened to me and the ways that I feel emotionally. So I think earth is for me, and I'm very happy about that.
I have to say, I've also done the test. There's a reason I'm wearing green today. I'm honouring the earth element.
Oh, amazing.
This was a choice.
Fellow earth
and
wielders.
when I did the test, I was sort of also just like, yes, this is me. There's no denying it.
I think everyone wants an earth wielder in their friendship group.
They're the best.
Yeah.
They're the best. So, returning to book 5, Skandar and the Spirit War, without getting into too many spoilers, we do revisit the mainland in this book. And I have to say that brings some of my favourite parts of the book. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about writing those chapters and maybe what can be expected?
Yeah, so I always knew that book 5, I was going to go back to the mainland. The prologue, I knew what that was going to be from very early on in the series. I think I knew a lot of things about book 5, which is quite scary when you come to write it, because you kind of need it to be as good as it seems in your head.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote the last line when I finished Phantom Rider, so I knew that as well.
Oh, wow.
So I think I was really excited to revisit the mainland, but the challenge always, I think, with the last book in a series is you have to make it exciting, and you have to make there be reasons why you are revisiting places. And I think for me, the fault lines play a really big part in the parts of the mainland we go to. That's all I'm going to say about that. And luckily, lots of the places that kind of are mentioned I was able to put in places in the mainland that I have been, where I've visited schools, or I've met booksellers who've been super fans of Skandar, or I really feel like they've made this kind of enormous difference to how the bloodthirsty unicorns are received in the UK. And so it was just so lovely being able to work that in, because it is a book for the fans, really. It's dedicated to them. And so having the mainland places actually be real places where I've felt so much love for the series it's just so special to write that.
That is so special, and I think your fans are just going to absolutely adore being able to see themselves written into this book. Sort of,
I hope so.
Yeah. Wow. Let's talk about Skandar. Skandar Smith, our hero. He's had a pretty tough time on the island and throughout the series. He's had many different friendships, he's suffered with rejection, family issues. Could you tell us a little bit about the importance of those relationships, especially with his older sister Kenna?
Yeah, so I think Skandar, he starts off very isolated from kind of anyone else his age, and so the only person he really kind of has any friendship with or real kind of warmth with is Kenna, with his sister. And I think that he really looks up to her, and so it's interesting how when he forms his friendships, you can see bits of Kenna in them, and that kind of is on purpose. And I think it's interesting then putting Kenna into that situation as well, and kind of the dynamic there.
Yeah.
But I think for Skandar, I think it's so important to him that he has strong connections with his friends, because what he's gone through on the mainland before he gets to the island. And I think kind of anyone who has felt really isolated at school or felt like they don't have anything common with anyone, I was kind of writing that for children like that and saying, it's going to be okay. You know, you'll find people who see you for who you are, and you don't need to worry about it. But I do think that means that Skandar holds on to them really tight, and they're really special to him, and he kind of works on those relationships. So it kind of works in his favour and everyone's favour, because he's kind of this really loyal person. By the end, he understands the value of friendship, perhaps in a way that the others don't, because they've not had that kind of loneliness at the beginning of their journeys. Although Mitchell also, I think, really understands him.
I really like what you said about sort of that worry of, or the reassurance, I suppose, of finding your people.
Yeah.
And I think that can be said, so the quartet in the series, we have Skandar, obviously, and then Mitchell, Bobby and Flo, who's sort of that core four throughout the series. And they all sort of stand by Skandar, but they also all suffer with their own issues, sort of with their parents, their elements, sort of who to live with, who to stick by, who they like, who they don't like. And could you tell us a little bit about what it's been like looking after the characters' journeys?
Yeah, it was important to me that they felt like real people. I think that's where I started from, because I think we can only really connect with characters in books when we feel like they are real, that they're not just a kind of 2D version of a person. And so it was important for me to look after them. I love that expression, and I think that meant that I had to sometimes put them through things that were a little bit stressful. So in Skandar and the Phantom Rider, Bobby goes on a journey which I was so worried about doing for the readers, because she was really popular even from book one. But I felt like she needed to have her own kind of journey and really like discover where she fit within the quartet. And it didn't feel realistic to me that she'd just go along with everything all the time. And you know, similarly with Mitchell as well, in book one he really struggles with that. And so looking after them sometimes actually meant putting them through really kind of stressful things and kind of emotional journeys, because that made them into the people they become in book 5. And I think that it was important not to just think this is a great 4 kind of people that fit together and then that's it from book 1, because that's not actually how friendships work. And I think lots of children have said to me who've read the series, oh, this really helped me because one of my friends was kind of going off with other people and I felt upset about it and I understood it a bit more. So I think that's like looking after them hopefully will help look after children who are going through similar things, because it's such a big part of your life when you're growing up, the friendship groups and how they change and how they shift and how you're changing and whether you still fit. And so I had to give them some drama, as I always do.
You had to put them to the test, which you could say is maybe some of the biggest tests they've had throughout the series are their friendships. And sort of, which is all part of growing up as well.
Exactly.
And I love that. Looking back over the 5 books, obviously we've already mentioned Bobby and Mitchell, but do you have a favourite sort of character's journey over the series? I know we have a lot of love for Bobby in particular. Yeah.
I mean, I think writing Bobby has been the most enjoyable part of it because she's so different to me. She's full air wielder, and she's the kind of person who I sort of wish I was sometimes, and that's lovely to write into a book. But I think, to be honest, one of the journeys that has been really interesting for me is Kenna's. I think she started off, you know, she's really not in book one very much, you know, beginning and end. And it was really interesting when we were doing the deal for the film with Sony. They were so interested in her. And I thought that was so interesting because I had these plans for her. Yeah. And they didn't know that. But they had seen something in her that they thought, well, this is going to go somewhere. They somehow knew about it. And I think that Kenna, my brother says to me, I've got two brothers, and they're both like, you're Kenna, aren't you? And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But I think they see the older sibling, because I'm the oldest. And I certainly felt like a real guilt when I went to university and kind of left them behind. I think there's lots going on there that's very real in her, in me as well. And so giving her a kind of really big journey, and not always a good one, in terms of good and evil, but complicated. And I think that's what the Skandar series, what I want to do with it. They are complicated characters. They all are. No one's fully good. No one's fully bad. You kind of need to understand who someone is in order to understand their actions. And so putting Kenna's perspective, I always say to children who are upset maybe by things that have happened, or they're angry with me, which I think is great because books, you know, should have strong feelings. But I say, do you understand why she's done what she's done? And they say yes, because I've had her perspective. And I don't think they would have understood that if I hadn't given it to them. Yeah. But even if they hate her or they love her, they at least understand why.
They understand her.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. I think that's part of the joy that Skandar brings to so many readers, is that even though it's epic fantasy with these bloodthirsty unicorns, magic, all things that shouldn't feel relatable, it is hugely relatable to your readers, whatever the age, like young and old, because, reminder, everyone should be reading children's books. They are not just for children.
Absolutely.
And it makes it such a joy to read, which... Making something which is a joy to read, reading for pleasure, is something we're really passionate about here at Waterstones. Skandar has brought that for so many young and older readers. Do you know why that might be, apart from sort of the relatability factor?
Yeah, so I've thought about this a lot. I think because we have this crisis of reading for pleasure, and as a children's author, it's kind of forefront of my mind all the time. And I meet so many children of different ages, and it's interesting to me talking to them about why they've picked it up, or they didn't pick it up in the beginning, because they do love to tell you that, because they're very honest, and so they'll be like, oh yeah, I really didn't fancy this at the start, you know, and now I love it, and that's so interesting to me. And I think one of the reasons why children really enjoy these books is because a lot of the time they are having a kind of community experience. So lots of the time they are recommended it by someone who is their age. Or they're reading it maybe in a class for fun. And I think the more of them read it, the more that kind of group kind of reading experience really helps with reading for pleasure, I think. Because you can be like, who's your favourite character? What's your element? Where have you got to? Oh my goodness, you haven't finished book 4. I don't want to spoil it for you. But I remember that as a child with multiple series, and how special that is when your friend is reading something when you are. And obviously it's not always the case, and I think lots of children like it because they see themselves in it, and it's a little bit kind of dark, and the characters grow up, so there's an aspirational element to it, which I think helps with reading for pleasure, because they feel like they're not too young for it, which I think is a battle that often we have to kind of fight. But I think that this idea that lots of people like it, and you can talk to them about it, and you have opinions about it that you're sharing about the books, is something that has really fueled that kind of excitement about the series, because, you know, so many of them are coming to the superfan events in August together, that have met through reading the series, and they have different theories, and I think that brings it to life. It's not a book that you just read, or you look at the grammar of, or you look at the vocabulary. It's the story, and they want that, and they want to share it, and they tell their parents to read it, and then, which is so funny. They're like, oh, he made me read this, and I liked it too, and that's great. And it's kind of, it is that sharing, I just need you to read this, that really brings it
it's
to
that
life
shared
for them.
experience, which I love how you phrase it like a community thing, because it is so true. I know when my sisters and I have all read them, and when we're reading them, I'll sort of like FaceTime them and be like, I've just caught up with this, have you? And it was that sort of like element of just sort of, it's like our own mini book club, and there's like all the thousands of mini book clubs all over the country, world, of people reading Skandar sort of in schools. Do you have a book, you mentioned there was like a few series when you were younger, would you have one in particular you think that sort of brought that community element for you?
So I think lots of people were reading Noughts and Crosses at the same time at my school. I really remember everyone was reading the second book at the same time, and it was actually really special because they're such fantastic books, and it was something that the themes are quite kind of, you know, if you're a bit younger, they're quite challenging, but I think it was so helpful for all of us to be able to talk to each other about them. And I really just remember kind of sitting in the playground and like saying, "Oh, where have you got to?" And I think that's really interesting. And like long running series always have that. I mean, the Caroline Lawrence books, the Roman Mysteries, I had some friends who were also reading those, and there are like 18 of those. And so that was like, you know, which one you're on? Let me check. Number 12. But, you know, have you read about Delphi yet? That was great as well.
Do you think you have 18 Skandars and could we keep going? Do you have to finish on 5?
I'm not sure I've got 18, but I'll come back to you on that.
Something I would like to go back to is the superfan events that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
They are incredible. We've been having them running for years, and could you tell us about them? Can you tell us how it started and what they're like and how much fun they are?
It was kind of my idea. I thought it would be a wonderful way to actually showcase the community we were talking about, and kind of give people a chance to get together who really liked the books. Because I was starting to see these online communities form, but that is difficult for the middle grade audience, particularly at the younger end. They can't really do that. So the older ones, I was seeing kind of things appearing, but for kind of younger, I wasn't. And I thought it would be lovely for children to meet each other, to give me the opportunity to meet them, and just kind of celebrate how much they love the books. And so they at the start, it was pretty ambitious, you know, to put together something like that, to get people to come. You know, it's hard to get people to come to things sometimes. And so we didn't really know how it was going to go. And then the first one was for Skandar and the Chaos Trials, and I just remember walking in wearing a yellow suit and just being like, oh my goodness, this is incredible, because also loads of them were reading the book when I came in because they get it early. So you know, you just saw these heads down reading this yellow book, loads of different ages, parents, children, and it's one of the most kind of special moments of my life, I think, seeing that. I mean, and we've done loads more, but I think that first time where it was kind of like, is this going to work? It was just such a lovely atmosphere. And I think what I often feel about the kind of fandom of Skandar is it sort of reflects the books a little bit, and I think the fans are really kind. And that's something that's kind of the thread that runs through the entire series, and you see them with each other and you just think, this is amazing, because you are reading these books and you also are kind of like almost mirroring them. And seeing that in real life for me was just incredible.
Do you have any particular favourite moments or favourite questions perhaps from your superfans?
I mean, I get a lot of questions about that are very, very world building related, so really tricky questions. And I always am a little bit nervous before the Q&A because I know they might ask me something tricky, which I think is just amazing that they think about it so much. Like, I've had questions about really specific unicorns that maybe appear one time, and that's pretty amazing. Someone, I think, asked me once, is the emergency sandwich that Bobby has, which is a kind of sandwich with interesting ingredients, is that a real sandwich in the UK? Because they travelled to the event. I think they're from Spain, and they were like, is that something you have here? And I was like, no, you can't buy that in the shop, but you're very welcome to try it. And I think that's really interesting as well, how, because it's kind of very kind of UK based, and the island is just off where we are. I think that's kind of interesting as well. You know, is this a real thing? Is it not a real thing? I kind of love that.
I love the question about the emergency sandwich because I actually have that later on. But I might just ask you now, what would be in your emergency sandwich?
Oh my goodness. So the thing is, Bobby's sandwich is kind of my sandwich. So I used to have I used to have those ingredients. So it's butter, cheese, raspberry jam, Marmite on a cracker when I was little. I don't know why I did that, but I think I just found them and layered them on. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty nice. And so that's where it originally came from. And actually in book 5, it does revert to a cracker at some point because, you know, there's a war on and things. So there's that. But I think, honestly, if I was going to kind of have a sandwich, I'd also want to put crisps in there, you know.
Great.
Salt and vinegar crisps.
Yeah, need that crunch.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm a big fan of mayonnaise, which I think if you read the series, you will know my editor also likes it, which is why it is so out of control through the books. So probably some mayonnaise too, and that is just sounding like a disgusting sandwich, but also I kind of want it.
I can imagine people saying this now, they're now rushing to the kitchen to request that sandwich.
The mayonnaise would just, you know, make it all
tie it all
stick together.
Need like a Skandar branded mayonnaise in your future.
Oh my goodness, please.
Or a sandwich deal. So, speaking of your future, what's next? Obviously, next year you have the very exciting publishing of your first adult title.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about what that writing journey has been like, sort of switching from a younger audience to an older audience?
Yeah, so Timeless, can't believe it comes out next year. It is very different from Skandar, but it's been really fun to switch around a bit. I actually think, I mean, lots of people said to me, oh, you're writing an adult book now, so that's probably going to be harder for you. Which I can't believe how many people have actually said that. And I actually think writing for children is harder. Now having written kind of more for adults, I think I mean, they have different challenges, but I think, you know, when you're writing for adults, you don't really have kind of the limitations and boundaries that you have to bear in mind when you're writing for children. And like particularly in terms of audience, like I'm writing for adults, that's a huge category. But if I'm writing kind of for 8-year-olds, but also like for 18-year-olds, that's the tricky. There's lots of stuff going on there. So that's been really interesting, not having those kind of like slight, like those concerns or those kind of slight sort of boundaries in my mind when I'm writing it. I think it's been nice to write kind of something that, so I read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, and it's been nice to write something where I'm reading a lot of those things at the moment as well. So it's been fun, and I'm excited to see what readers think of it. And Time Travelling Assassins, I think, is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And it's involved research into real places, historical places too, which Skandar hasn't really, because I built it all in my head. And there's a few places, particularly in book 5, which I did research, but not kind of whole historical time periods. So that's very different as well.
Do you think we'll ever see sort of a Time Travelling Assassins unicorn crossover?
I mean, given that they're bloodthirsty unicorns, I wouldn't rule that out, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I suppose that is sort of, it's already happened.
Yeah.
From the future, let's go back to 2022 and the publication of Skandar and the Unicorn Thief, book 1 in the series. Could you maybe think of it, would you have any advice for yourself looking back then, or any future debut authors who might be looking to you as inspiration?
Yeah, I think I really worried with Skandar that it wasn't a very good idea. I worried about it a lot. It sat on my computer for a year and nobody saw it. And I tried to publish a different book as well before it, which got turned down by literally everyone. Like, I mean, I can't even count the number of publishers that didn't want it. And I think it's really easy to look at how Skandar has gone and been like, that was my first book and that was, you know, that was it. But there was a really big time, like, not a long time, but a really kind of felt long, where I was kind of like, I don't think I'm going to get to do this. And I think it's really scary, but if you're starting out, just try to trust the ideas you have. And also don't tell yourself you're a bad writer because someone doesn't want to buy one of your stories. Because that story that didn't sell probably wasn't the right one for me. But Skandar kind of was. And I sort of knew in the back of my mind. I was waiting for it. And it was the one that I sort of held back and I worked on the most. And I think trusting yourself is really hard because writing comes with a lot of self-doubt, still does. But I think trying to, if you really love something, like really love it, the chances are someone else is going to like it as well. And I think just trying to kind of cut through the noise of your own doubt.
Yeah, just trust yourself.
Yeah, and it happens to us all.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's going to be very helpful for a lot of readers, and I think people are also going to find it crazy to think that that you never thought that Skandar might be right or that it was going to happen, because I can't imagine a world without Skandar.
Oh, me neither. But it's yeah, and worth saying, it didn't always. You know, the first draft wasn't exactly like this. So if you're reading your first draft and you read this, if you've written a children's book, you get a lot of help through the process. You have an amazing editorial team. You have people kind of helping you, sensitivity readers, copy editors, proofreaders. So don't read finished books and think that's what mine should look like right now, because there's no way it can. And my first drafts do not look like those. You know, I worked really hard to make them. We
met Skandar in 2022, whereas for you this has been years of prep and sort of like mulling it over, and so special. Annabelle, this has been so lovely to talk to you and sort of wrap up and just talk about the whole amazing series and fandom and everything that's come with it. Thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.